Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Based on the title, you already know what motor I actually end up going with. And I'll give you some brief explanations why I chose this motor over all the other ones out there right now. And we're going to go through the install on our Hobie PA14 right after this. So the reasons why we chose this motor over all the other ones out there on the market right now is, the reasons are, this is lightweight, it's portable, it's easy to take off my kayak, and if I want to compete into the Hobie BOS or any of that stuff, I can easily take this off. I can use this on practice days. And right now, I don't need a fully motorized kayak. You know, I can physically still pedal the Hobie and have this as an assistant so I can prolong the battery life. Now, they probably don't want me to say this, but Bixpy is working on larger batteries and probably larger motors down the line, just so you know. The batteries coming down the line will pair up with this J2 motor, so I think they're coming out with a larger amp hour probably that'll last longer. You know, this right now, doing the Hobie PA with my gear on it, full speed, is supposed to last about 80 minutes. So what I'll probably do is put it about half speed, you know, 50% of the power, and also lightly pedal along, and it'll get me there. Then I'll still have enough to come back to the ramp, or, you know, from wherever I launched from, and I'll still be able to use it in between all the spots, you know. After I do this install and we get on the water with this, I'll have a video for on the water testing as well. But on this video, I just kind of go over the reasons why I chose this motor. But I just wanted something simple, something I don't have to have a bunch of cables for foot steering. It's more or less, I can put this on, lock it in the straight position, and use the rudder on the Hobie to steer it, and also my fins as well. So that's really the main reasons why I chose this motor. You know, down the line, if I need a fully motorized kayak, if I physically cannot pedal or paddle, I'll probably possibly get a different motor. It all depends what they come out with in the future with the Bixpy, as long as, you know, as far as batteries. So, you know, I did look at the Motor Guide i3. I looked at the Torqeedos. I looked at the Newport Vessel. Yes, those motors are very powerful, and depending on what battery you get, you can make that thing run 40-50 miles. I don't need that right now, so I end up going with the cheaper option, not just because of the cost, and it's not a cheaper option as far as quality, it's just a cheaper option of all the available motors out there at the current time. And it's very easy to install. I don't have to have a bunch of foot controls. I don't have to have any of that stuff. It's just a remote control forward and back. I can pop it up with a cam lock, hold it up, you know, hold the motor up when I'm going into launch, and that's it. It's a very simple motor setup, and we are going to put it to the test on the water. We will be running this thing hard and see how long the battery lasts. We'll be running at 50% on other times out there, so you'll get a lot of videos on this motor on this channel. So stay tuned. We're going to go through the install and see how it goes. So as you see, it comes nicely packaged, and inside the box, it's very well organized and very simple. This is how you're going to receive it. It starts with a quick start guide, which basically tells you to look at all your different applications for different, you know, this is for stand-up paddle boards, it's for all different kayaks. You can also, they also have adapters to put it right into the Hobie, you know, where your fins go in your Hobie. They have adapters for that. You can just drop it right in, and then when you want to use your fins, you pull it out, you know, lay it off to the side, put your fins back in. That's a very, very easy way of doing it, but we're going to do it on the rear of this, and you'll see how we do it and the mounts that we're going to do it with. So it comes with a nice guide to start. It tells you how to use the remote. It tells you about the battery, all that stuff. Inside the box, you know, you get a nice Bixpy sticker to put on your kayak or on your vehicle. Tells you to fully charge your battery before you first start using it. And you can see it's nicely packaged. You have a battery, you got your charger, your remote, your kill switch, and the motor itself. And as you see, this motor is very, very small, and it's lightweight, but it's powerful. And the battery itself floats and is also waterproof. So you could dump this thing, you know, if you ever, you know, tip your kayak over or you accidentally drop it in the water, it's fully sealed. You can see how simple it is. It's got a nice little carry handle. It's very lightweight. So adding this to your kayak's not going to add a lot of weight. I think overall this whole package is, I think maybe, I'd have to look it up. I'm not sure. Maybe 19 pounds. I know the battery's not that heavy. I'd probably put that about 10, and maybe the motor itself is probably, you know, maybe 3 or 4 pounds, and then with the accessories. So, you know, maybe 20 pounds. This is where your battery connects. They have an auxiliary port, so you can get auxiliary cables for charging USBs, and this is where you charge it. So let's get into the install. So as you see, we went with the one objective mount that we have to mount the Bixpy plate to. It goes right on this, and what you got to do to mount this, you can see there is handle adapters that go around the rear handle of your Hobie, and it screws into the two front screws here that you remove, and one objective gives you longer screws to replace that. So we already took the screws out of this, and you can see this is the plate. So take this plate off, save your screws and save your plate into a safe area so you don't lose them. And basically it goes into your two front screws and goes around the handle. So one objective gives you all the hardware to do the mount to your Hobie. If you go to Bixpy's website, you can actually order the Hobie plate for your power pole adapter. You know, basically that's what it's called, and this mounts on that, but we ended up going with the one objective because I want a little bit more, you could say, stiffness, if that's what you want to call it. You know, it's because this is made out of hard plastic. The Hobie plate may be okay, but I don't like how it's bent and how it comes down. It looks like a lot of people, it kind of warps in the sun and stuff, so I wanted to go with something a little bit more thicker. That's why I went with the one objective. So Bixpy gives you the options. So Bixpy gives you the stainless steel 1/4-20 hardware, and it gives you the nice option of thumb screws. So when you mount this on there, you can easily take it off with some thumb screws, or they give you the nylon nuts. Now, that's if you want to leave your mount on there all the time, but what I'm going to do, I'm actually going to run Bixpy's hardware through the one objective plate, and I'm actually going to use the nylon nuts, not to hold the Bixpy adapter plate on, but to hold the hardware underneath the one objective plate, and use the thumbs, you know, the thumb screws, so I can take this motor on and off. Because if you've been following along, I have the Will-I loader from Bixpy Pro, and I think when I go to load this up onto the Bixpy Pro and drag this on the ground, I think this is going to stick out too far and run on the ground. So I'm going to want to probably take this off when I take the whole motor assembly off when I load it on my roof. There may be times I may be able to leave it on there, but that's how I want to do it. So I don't know if this is the way you're supposed to do it with their nylon nuts, but we're going to use it as a backer behind the one ejector plate. So, you know, all we're going to do is run the 1/4-20 screws, and these basically are giving you studs, 1/4-20 studs from Bixpy. And it has an Allen key hole in it to tighten it down. So I just want to take their studs, I'm going to run it through the one ejected plate and back it with the nylon nuts on the back side. So we'll put these on, and we'll go to the next step after that. So as you see, what I did on the backer plate here is I put the nylon nuts on the back side, and I pretty much left the same amount of studs sticking up. So when I put this plate on, they're all pretty much the same. And then, as you see, what Objective uses basically, I forgot the name of these kind of nuts, but they kind of like, you use them on like vans and stuff for shelves. But once you bite into that and tighten up, it kind of bites into the plastic and hold these, these inserts in place. So to do that, once I put these nylon nuts on, I actually went counterclockwise and loosened the screws, so it actually pulled it tight against that. And all I would do is I would just take the thumb screws and just tighten down on them, so those teeth, that insert, just bites into that plastic. This kind of helps tighten up everything before you actually put this on your kayak. I just kind of want to go through step by step, but it's a very, very simple install for this motor. And that's one of the main reasons why I wanted it. Not because I'm not capable of putting the motor on, but I just wanted something very simple. And this will get us to point A to point B without me without me using the fins from Hobie. But that's not I'm not looking to have this as my primary means of getting there. But on a good note, if I ever lose my fins, I can, if I have enough battery left in this will get me back to the ramp. And if I run out of battery, then I have my paddles, so I really have like 3 means of getting to point A to point B. And this motor just gives us some backup. So that's our starting point. Now we're going to mount this on the kayak, and then we're going to mount the Bixpy adapter plate for the motor onto that. And that's it. That's all it's going to be on the kayak. Basically, as far as that, the motor drops into this, and we're just going to run a piece of paracord to the front that when we pull up on this motor, it's going to bring it up. When we pull down on it, it's going to bring it up out of the waters, for coming into shore or whatnot. The next step is mounting the one ejector plate to the kayak. I took the liberty of taking off the clamps that go around the handle off. We got the plate off the Hobie itself, and we're going to set this on here. And then we're going to take the supplied hardware from one objective, and we're going to line it up with the holes. They give you slots here to give a little bit of adjustability. Line it up with the copper inserts. or brass inserts into the Hobie. And like I was saying before I dropped the screws 15 times, is do not use a drill to do this. Only use a screwdriver to do this, because they're only brass inserts into a piece of rotomode plastic. And if you over tighten this, you're gonna break these, and then you're gonna have to try to do JB weld or something to hold it in place to take this screw, or you can strip these out very easily too. So you just want to snug these up. That's it. So it's more of just a guide to hold those on. So our next part is we got to take the, you guys should see the U-brackets, slide these around the handle and tighten up that hardware next. So we're all tight here now. You can see what this looks like. It goes around the handle. We got our studs sticking through, and as you see what I was saying before, how they have like a built-in Allen key head to be able to tighten these down. I backed them with the nylon nuts, and as you can see, I got the nylon nuts underneath there, but nothing's hitting on the kayak itself. But it gives me a little bit of a backer on that. And then you got your screws right up here in the front. So as you see, it really doesn't stick out, if anything at all, past where my anchor wizard sits in the back. So next we're going to put the adapter plate on from Bixpy, and this is where we're going to be using our Bixpy supplied thumb screws to put this on right now. And like I was saying, this is why we can easily take this on and off just with these, or have to tighten up when we're on the water or whatnot. We don't need any tools, we can just use the thumb screws. Now if you don't want to go this route, you can just use the supplied hardware and use the nylon nuts to hold this on permanently without taking it off. But I have a feeling, based on how far this sticks out, that I may have to remove this sometimes when loading on the roof of my truck. So this is the adapter pole from Bixpy. And the motor itself attaches to these holes here on the bottom. You have a pin to lock it in place to keep it straight. And then you have this collar lock, or tensioner. That's what gives you the adjustability to go up and down with the length, so you have this far enough underneath the water. I think they recommend, I'm not sure, it's either 2 or 3 feet below the water line is where you want your motor to sit, so you don't have any pulsating in the back. I'm going to show you real quick before we put the motor on this. It comes with thumb screws too to take it on and off real easy. And you can see there's little nubs that stick out. That's what sits in this and locks right in place. So Bixpy gives you the little supplied screws to attach your motor to the adapter pole. So we're going to put that motor on now. As you see, you got, this is your, basically your cable that's going to lift this up and down, your eyelets for that. These two little eye loops here is if you have steering, you can do steering cables with foot control if you want with this. That's what these two top ones are for. So if you just have a kayak with like no pedal drive and just a paddle, you can actually, they have a tiller handle adapter to this that you can actually steer with this too. Just, hit your remote, put it in gear, and then you can just use the tiller handle to steer. So they have all sorts of adapters that fit any kayak, any stand-up paddleboard setup. That's why I like it. So we just got to put these, put this together. Obviously, you're going to want to make sure that this part here, and your motor's facing that way. You want to kind of line it up like that. And then put the supplied screws and nuts on, and that'll be attached to the pole. So we got our motor attached to the pole. You can see this comes with almost like cap nuts on the one side. And then you got your screws, so you got your 4 screws that go through this plate. Now if you're listening, Bixpy, anything that has vibration, which you guys should know, anything that vibrates comes loose. Me personally, what I would have sent with this is stainless steel nylon nuts for this that just prevent any backing off. I don't know if you guys had any problems with these yet, but that's just my personal opinion that I would use nylon nuts here instead of just the cap nuts. Yes, the cap nuts look nice, but I just feel like everything else, everything should be nylon nuts. On trailers, ladder racks, boats, everything should have a nylon nut, or at least a lock washer with it. Just my 2 cents. So if you're listening, maybe next time around you guys start shipping out some nylon nuts. So we're just going to double check everything, make sure everything's tight the way we like it. We're going to set this on the back of the kayak, and then we're going to make some final adjustments, and I'll show you it all set up. So you got your supplied thumb screws. We're going to put that on. Now the motor is attached to the actual bracket itself. That's what it looks like sitting on the back of the one ejector mount on the Hobie PA. I like the way it looks. I like the color of this blue, so is my wife. She has a pretty cool color blue. All right, we got everything lined up. I made the adjustment as what I think is going to be okay right now until I get on the water, but as you see, it's about how far I'm down from the back of the kayak. So when I'm on the water the first time testing this, I may have to adjust this up and down, or it may be okay when I get out there. But to adjust this, they give you a supplied Allen key. So you see the collar here and the collar here. You just got to loosen those up and it'll go up and down. And then once you get where you want it, you tighten them up, and you got to make sure this here, the locking collar, that you have it in line, that this pin can go in and out freely. You have this lined up with that slot there, and it just locks it in. So and that's what keeps it from going side to side. It locks it in place. One thing I may do down the line, I'll see how this pin, sorry I got sniffles. I'm going to see if this pin has, how it holds up and stays locked in place, but I may put a stainless steel nut and bolt through here to hold this permanently in place, because I'm never going to steer it on this kayak at least. So I want to keep this locked in place at all times. They suggest not to drill anything through this. Like, some people say, oh, I'll put a set of screws through there and hold it in place. They suggest not drilling through this pull adapter at all. So that's it, guys. This is the actual install and what it looks like on the kayak itself. The only thing we got to do now is route our cable. They give you supplied clips, and it's going to mount. I'll probably leave the battery just sitting in the back here for now, or I may mount it to the back side of my Yak Attack Pro pack. Wait, Yak Attack Black Pack. And actually screw this battery. As you see, there is holes that go through this battery itself. So then we could just use stainless steel hardware and mount it if we think we need to. But for right now, I think we're just gonna leave it sitting here in the back, underneath the bungees, and that's it. And if I do tip the kayak, like I said, this thing does float. The battery does float itself, and it's waterproof. So if it does come off the kayak, it's not the end of the world. So with the supply clips, you just wrap your wire. You can see the clip that they give you. Just wrap your wire around that, and it fits around the pole. So obviously you want to leave it just down this area, because when you take the motor on and off, you're not going to want to like tie wrap it to the mount, because then it'll be stuck on there. So we're just going to put a couple wraps on here. Make sure they're nice and tight. Keep the cable straight, and then snip those off. Snip your tie wraps off. So since I'm going to be taking this on and off a lot, every time I go out in the water, instead of just tying the paracord right to the hook, I'm going to use a carabiner. So I got a stainless steel carabiner that I can just unclip and leave clipped on this bracket if need be, or just take the whole thing apart. I'll have to see it the first few times I'm on the water, how I like the setup and how I like everything before I finalize it. But this should be good. So we're just going to have that clip on there. We're going to run that paracord through the other eyelet. So as you see, when I'm coming in to the bank or before I launch, I'm just going to take this and pull up like that. And just go down, and when you lower it, kind of just put some pressure on it, and if it doesn't totally engage, if it hits the water and stays in, when you put this in gear, it's going to lock itself into that clip on the back of the pole. So from the seat, I'm at an awkward angle. That's how it's going to go up and down. And once I'm up to that point there, I'm high enough that I'm out of the water. Put my Boondocks landing gear on the back. It's going to raise the back, so when I transport this up to my truck, I'll still be high enough with the motor. But then when I'm done, this will give me the ability just to unclip this, take those thumb screws out, take the thumb screws out of the motor, and just take this off, put the cable with it, put the battery in the motor in my truck, and I'm done. So Bixpy does supply you with the paracord, and you do have an eye loop right here in the middle. I added another stainless steel eye loop right to the one ejector plate. This way it kind of just gives me a little bit of guidance as I'm pulling this up and down, and I kind of set it at an angle because I'm going to have it coming up next to my seat. So I just want to have a little bit of something for this to run on, and also stay out of the way of my Anchor Wizard paracord itself that comes with the anchor. So it's just more of a guiding point than anything, and keeps it below this a little bit. And as one thing, as you see, I'll show you at the end here, that even with my anchor here, when this is set up, this motor will not interfere with, the Anchor Wizard itself, and the anchor will not interfere with this motor setup. So, you know, I'm doing this in my garage. I'm not on the water, but I still could set this up to see how the cord needs to be ran, the paracord that's going to hold this motor up when I go in and out of the water. Is I put my black pack on here, and I just want to see the angle to make sure I cleared everything in my anchor wizard and not interfere with my crank handle. But I end up using a stainless steel eyelet right here. I used the Yak Attack adapter for the the T-track nut basically, and I backed it with my with a stainless steel nylon nut too onto that. So as you see, it's gonna guide me back and forth to bring that motor up and down. Alright guys, so here's your final install overview. Here's your motor on the bracket, and as you see, like I was saying before, with the motor in this bracket does not interfere with my anchor wizard setup. You can see I kind of have the grappling style kind of anchor. Now if you use a ball, it'll be even less out of the way, but as you see, it does not interfere with the one ejective mount or anything else here. You can see here's the final install of the motor. And you got your thumb screws on here for quick release. I end up putting a stainless steel carabiner on here, so when I take this motor off, I can just disconnect that, take these thumb screws out, and disconnect the battery and take this whole setup into the back of my truck very easily. And what I did for the up and down of this, like I said, this comes already with an eye loop in it. I added this another eye loop right here screwed to the one ejective mount using stainless steel hardware, and it kind of gives you that angle coming down through. And then you can see it's running underneath, you know, it's not a lot of tension on it, runs underneath my anchor wizard. And I got the eye loop here mounted to the Groovy, the Boondocks Groovy landing gear using the Yak Attack T-track nut, and that's what holds this in place and gives us a guide right back through there. And as I come up through, it comes here, and I have my cam lock here. I mounted my cam lock actually on the H-rail of the Hobie through the metal. I feel more secure with the tension on the metal itself than if I actually screwed it to the plastic of the kayak. And it also keeps less holes in the kayak, the plastic itself. Then to pull the motor up, all we gotta do is release the paracord from the cam locker, give it a pull up. That's why I'm probably going to use a smaller carabiner. This way I can get it up a little higher. And that's it. That's what keeps us up out of the air when we come to launch. And then when you do that, you just let it sit right back in the cam lock, and it holds it in place. And then the remote itself, it's just going to be Velcroed to the chair. You have your reverse, forward, and stop. And that's pretty much the walkthrough. And that's what it looks like in the up position. So one last thing, the Bixpy motor comes with the kill switch, and it comes with a wrap. So either you can put this around your arm, which I doubt you'd want to do that, so it'll probably be in the way of you, but you can wrap this around your ankle, and this string runs to the back as a kill switch. This way, if you ever fall off your kayak, it's going to pull this kill switch and kill the motor, so it's not floating away, you know, and running into the other people, running into a boat, or running so far away from you, they won't be able to catch up with it. So definitely utilize the kill switch and tie this off to you. It's a very important thing that you guys want to do, is make sure this is tied off to you and the kill switch is active on this motor. Bixpy comes with all the Allen keys that you need to do adjustments, so I would definitely recommend keeping that with you in a waterproof bag on the kayak with you in case you're really far away from your truck and you have to make some adjustments so you're not stuck, or you have to go back via your old way. One last thing before we leave today, Bixpy did send out a newsletter. Today is August 17th. On September 6th, I think that's Labor Day, the day after Labor Day, they are going to increase the prices. So I'm not trying to get sales for Bixpy, but I would suggest that if you guys want this motor, I would go buy it before September 6th, because there will be a price increase. This whole setup is like $1,200 plus all your attachments. So you're looking at probably about, $1,400 and so dollars. It's a very simple design. It's lightweight, and it gets the job done. If you guys plan on buying this motor, and to help our channel out, we really appreciate it, I'm going to leave a link in the description below. Go to bixpy.com/RJMFishtails, and that will take you to Bixpy to purchase this motor. That just helps us out with our channel. If you guys could do that, I really appreciate that. It means a lot. because we want to keep continuing to grow our channel and keep doing more videos and more how-tos and help you guys decide. If any of you have any questions about anything that I did today, just message me. We can talk about it even more, talk in more detail if you guys need anything. And as always, stay safe on the water, keep yourself protected from the sun, and I'll catch you guys in the water. Thanks for watching.